When he started working on Me Against the World, were you part of that at all or no?
No.
No. He had gone off on his own.
Yeah, I think by that time he was in LA. I mean, yeah, he was in LA. I'm trying to think if when he went to jail.
He went to jail after that album dropped.
Or right before it dropped, because he was in jail when Dear Mama. That's why he's not in the video.
He wasn't in the video for Dear Mama.
Because he was locked up.
He was locked up.
And so all of this stuff, he had gotten shot, and all of this stuff was happening. But I was in Oakland. He was in L.A. So I really wasn't a part of that process at all. Shot produced a few tracks, So Many Tears, Fuck the World, and a couple other ones that didn't make it on the album.
Right.
But in my personal opinion, that was one of his best albums, complete. Like, Easy Mo B production on it.
Right, Temptations was on that, right?
Yep, Temptation.
Right, and I heard the album originally was supposed to be called Fuck the World.
Possibly.
Yeah.
And that's actually how the Outlaws as constructed were born, from the song Outlaw on that album. Because they had other names, Dramacidal, I believe, and some other stuff. But
Dramacidal, I thought was part of Thug Life.
Well,
something like that.
It was
kind of intermixing, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember Edie and them when they was kids. When he first brought them out, and Yaki, they was like maybe between ages 12, 13, 14. So he had them as his kid group. I forget what they were called back then. So I kind of seen them guys grow up.
Yeah.
But the song Outlaw on Me Against the World is where they kind of grabbed that and became the Outlaws from that. But that's one of my favorite albums of his. Even though I wasn't involved.
Right. I think as a lot of people look at it as you had All Eyes on Me, and Machiavelli. He started dropping some heat at that point.
Oh, yeah.
So it's definitely kind of like a toss-up depending on what your tastes are.
Yeah, and my favorite Pac song, I always say is Me Against the World is So Many Tears, is my favorite Pac song.
Yeah.
But on any particular day, I'm loving one of the other ones that,
Sure.
just depending on the mood. So it's the same with albums.
So if you look at the time you spent with Pac, by the time we get to Me Against the World, you hear about the drama that he got into.
Right.
Right? There's the quad shooting. There is the sexual assault case, right? And then, in the movie, you saw the whole thing that happened in Marin at the park where the little kid gets killed.
Yeah.
But I've talked to people that knew him and were around him, and Pac was in so much more shit than people even know about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because it was also him getting beat up by the police that one time, right? That was depicted in the movie. But I had a friend, I have a friend named Adisa Banjoko, who was a writer,
I know
Adisa. And he was telling me how he went to go meet up with Pac to do some interview on him, and he was hanging outside the studio, and Pac gets into an argument, and the dudes just start shooting at him, and he's chasing after him, and fuck y'all, or the Alcoholics was telling me about some situation they were at a club, and then shots, some scuffle breaks out and shots break out. Tupac was around so much violence on a regular basis that people don't know about, that it's just insane when you think about it.
Right.
Knowing him as well as you did, why do you think that was?
That's a tough one. I always feel like you kind of, what do you call it? You speak things into existence a lot of times. And, I saw that early in my career, meaning that a lot of people don't know that we kind of come from Digital Underground. We come from NWA camp in a sense, because Atron started out as the road manager for NWA.
Right.
And that's how he got his money to start TNT Records, which signed Digital Underground. And even before he signed us, the same way he asked us to listen to Tupac and Strictly Dope, he had Dre, Ren, and Cube and them listen to the Digital Underground demo before he signed. You know, they were his ears. And so they're partly responsible for why we're signed. So early on in our careers, as we were coming up, anytime NWA came to town, we would be around it, you know, because Atron was their road manager, so we could go to the shows, be backstage, or even, I remember NWA came and did an appearance at this place called the Omni in North Oakland. And I just noticed that whenever they came around, because they were these gangsters or whatever, everybody wanted to prove that they were as gangster, or they wanted to test their gangster. Like, let me see how gangster they really is. We real gangsters in Oakland. We real gangsters in Cleveland. We real gangsters in San Antonio. You know, wherever you at, you want to prove it by, these are supposed to be the gangsters. Let's see. So you kind of draw that energy. It always comes to you. And I saw it firsthand. So I always knew, like, man, I'm really about kicking it and hoes and drinking and partying. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And I spoke it into existence. Yeah. The same way Redman and Be Real, they don't never have to pay for Tree if they don't want to, because people bring it to them, or right. Licks, you know, whatever it is that you really talk about. Even though you don't know about it, you kind of speak it into your world. If you always talking about how you shooting shit up and you got the bag on you, somebody gonna try to get that bag from you eventually.
Right.
Or they gonna test and see if you really are what you are. So that's what happens. So I say that to say, like, there was a point when Tupac used to come and play us his demos, and he would be talking about getting shot or going to jail, whatever it is. And I remember, like, he would always talk about going to jail. And then he did finally go to jail, get arrested. And then he would talk about getting shot, and he got shot. So then I remember when we did, the last song that we recorded with him with Digital Underground was Wussup Wit The Luv. And it's got me, Tupac, Shock, Clee Smack is on the song. And he's playing these songs that were some of them eventually made it to Me Against the World. But he was talking about dying.
If you listen through his music, you'll see, through his albums, you'll see there's a constant death chant. It's always talking about death. Don't forget you could die, nigga. You could die, I could die, we could die, I'ma die. Nigga die, nigga, you wanna die? Die. Nigga die, death, nigga die. You know what I mean? And I think that's because Pac would have dreams too. He would, you know, he would wake up screaming and shit. And
really?
Mm-hmm.
So he felt he was gonna die soon.
Yeah.
And even my cousin Clee was like, dog, stop making these songs, you know, because you really do speak your life, you know, you speak things into existence when you always talk about them. So I would say to artists, you know, you gotta be careful about that. If you're always talking about negativity and what you're gonna do to somebody, eventually somebody's gonna wanna see what you're gonna do and try to do something to you just to get their name. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And, you know, Tupac spoke about a lot of things that he did eventually happen to him. And he did talk about his demise, actually.
Yeah, I mean, even on the cover of Machiavelli, there's a bullet coming at him on the album cover.
Right.
It's crazy. Because by the time he got to death row, you just stopped really,
yeah, I've never
being close to him at that point.
Yeah, I was never around death row at all, ever.
Yeah.
I spoke to him on the phone. He actually invited me to come down a couple of times, but I had heard stories. And I know that I'm not really like a follower type dude. And you know, in them situations, I heard that if the group moved, he had to move with the group. Or if something happened, and I wasn't the type just to hear a wee and just start moving in a pack like that.
Yeah.
That ain't how I rock. So I was like, I'll see you when you come up here. You know, I probably should have. I would have been on probably a few more songs or something, but.
Right. Whatever. When you got the news that he got shot in Vegas, what went through your head?
That when he gets well, he gonna really be talking shit. Because we just thought that it was just like before, you know.
We all thought that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was just
I
like, all right.
remember, you know, when I interviewed the Outlaws, I'd mentioned this, that I was riding around in the Bay, and these DJs were joking about like, oh, you know, because I guess that they were talking about how he had to get a lung removed, and he's like, oh, how you gonna rap with one lung, Tupac? Like, you know, like they were making jokes, not to really be mean, but there was
Nobody
the
took
assumption,
it serious, 'cause we
like,
all
oh,
thought
okay,
that,
yeah, he's just gonna be fine. He's gonna talk shit, and make a song about it.
That's
and
what we all
everything else
thought.
like that.
He was like, he really gonna be talking shit when he get
Yeah.
out of this one, because I know after he got shot 5 times the first, he thought he was invincible.
Right.
And then it's like,
5
oh,
shots couldn't
now,
kill me.
now
I
he,
took it and
now
smiled.
he really gonna have a story to tell. But you know,
It never.
yeah,
He never pulled out of it.
right.
When you found out that he passed, how did you feel?
Obviously we all didn't want to believe it, you know, but it was a trip, you know, because it hit you. It was like being blindsided, because we all thought that he was going to come out of it. So there was we never entertained it being that serious and that he would actually pass away. So when I got the news, I was fucked up, but I had to really go catch up and be around us to kind of process it. So, you know, my mom was the one who actually told me, because back then we had the alphanumeric pagers. You remember those? Mm-hmm. So I was getting all these messages from people I hadn't talked to, talking about, you okay? Like, you know, keep your head up and blah, blah, whatever it is. I'm like, what are they talking about? But when my mom hit me and I stopped at a payphone and called her, and she's like, you all right? And then she didn't even have to say it. So I had to pick her up, drop her off, whatever. And then I went to my cousin Clee's in East Oakland. And then we eventually all met at the studio, meaning Digital Underground, in Alameda. And we kind of just spent most of that night kind of reminiscing, celebrating, and comforting each other as much as we could. But
Yeah. It was quite a loss.
yeah.
It was
Sure.
one of these epic losses. You know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about it. It's, you know, people always ask, well, how did you feel? I'm like, well, imagine if one of your family members got killed.
Yeah.
You know, exactly that.
And, you know, like at the end of the movie, you know, like I know the Tupac story. A lot of my career, I had done a lot of focus on Tupac.
Right.
But at the end of the movie, when they said he had this many albums, this many films, this many million songs.
Yeah, you don't realize it, right?
And he was only 25.
Yeah. So just imagine.
Imagine. At 25. Imagine if he was 45. He's
Right.
what, 46 now, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's probably the thing I hate the most, is that we never got to see what he would have become.
Yeah.
And I kind of know what he would have become.